As you can see, we're here to talk about AI enterprise, how agentic AI transforms work. And we've got fantastic panelists and John here today, president of Sana. I know we've had a couple of sessions on agentic AI, but I think in cases people who weren't in the previous sessions, we'll run through a few theoretical definitions and concepts. John can talk through those. If there's any contradictions between this session and previous sessions, please do fire in a question and we'll tease them out. And then quite keen to get on to how to build a successful AI enterprise. So John, just first off, can you just talk through what we mean by agentic AI and how it is different from other AI tools that are out there?
Sure. Great question to start with. So what we mean when we say that we're building agentic AI is taking a large language model, combining that with knowledge. That knowledge could be a policy document, a contract, it could be a database, and then combining that with instructions and tool use. So a large language model combined with knowledge and tool use. As a user, you can submit a query to this agent, and the agent then has an objective to then complete this query. What it will do is break down your query, look at the relevant knowledge in order to answer the query, and find the relevant tool to then be able to execute some action. An example could be, I want to be able to analyze the top 10 opportunities in Salesforce from last week. If I write that to an agent, the agent will then identify that it has to select Salesforce, has to see which opportunities I have access to, and then return those results in a synthesized manner.
So let's just stay on that example then, I guess. So obviously agentic AI is taking more initiative, particularly with your example that you gave there, and more autonomy. How is this changing the way, or how have you seen this changing the way business operate?
Yeah, it's quite exciting, I would have to say, and it's exciting in particular because, for myself at least, and I can speak to maybe a few of you who have started to use these tools. You no longer have to fuddle around with these horrendous enterprise user interfaces to get answers to business questions that you have. And that might seem simplistic in nature, but if you start to compound these small improvements over time, agents can actually unlock quite a lot of productivity for you. For example, a team might have a new request for proposals coming in as part of a sales process. So these requests for proposals can have hundreds and hundreds of questions on everything from what's your security posture? Where do you host data? How do you process data? Are you complying with GDPR? Describe your services, goods and services. And luckily enough, over the course of history, your company might have developed a corpus of old requests for proposals. So now with an agent, anytime a new request for proposal comes in, you can instruct the agent to go look at the historical ones, find the ones that are most relevant, either based on when it was recently updated or maybe a product or geography, and then use the historical answers to populate the new RFP, saving you, weeks, if not, at least hours of time. And again, here, if you start to apply these type of agentic workflows within your organization, that allows you to spend time doing things that are more fruitful for your business, asking the tougher questions, figuring out the strategy, and not getting stuck in mundane routine work.
On previous panels and what you're just saying here, you're talking about the benefits of AI, agentic AI, and it seems to be this all-powerful technology that can help to transform businesses. But there's quite a few researchers out there and some select organizations that talk about how agentic AI is still in its infancy and it has got limited performance and reliability to date. And this is not saying that it will continue to have that in the future, but to date. And I guess in terms of your example about RFPs, that might be one aspect of sort of limited performance. I guess my question is, how can we make sure that agentic AI is creating business value on a bigger scale, or is the technology still in its infancy and isn't able to in its current state?
Right. So, it is not a silver bullet. It's not going to cure everything. Hopefully not, because I think there's a lot of purpose to what we do as humans. However, when you look at the productivity gains that simple applications such as the one that I provided, or even just enterprise search, being able to find the right document using a natural language query can provide an organization of tens of thousands, of 50 to 100,000 employees. If you start to compound those, the gains can become quite significant, and it might not be cost savings at the end of the day, and that might not be the right approach for your business either. It might just be giving people time back and enabling them to, again, spend more time on other things. And I think what's important, and maybe what you're alluding to, is all use cases are not going to work today. I was just speaking with a gentleman who focuses a lot on R&D design and works with a lot of large CAD files. And that's not something that we can solve today. However, there's a long list of use cases with regards to structured and unstructured data that we can. And oftentimes just having a roadmap of starting somewhere and then taking your organization along this roadmap to get to some desired end state is incredibly important. And I say that it's incredibly important because I'm a bit biased, but I do believe that we're at a critical juncture where we're going to see quite a significant change in how we work and how we organize ourselves at work.
Great. I just want to move us along a bit, conscious of time, and talk about how businesses can integrate this technology, their models successfully. So what do you feel are the necessary factors for businesses to incorporate it into their models and to ensure that it's reliable and taking advantage of those gains that you've talked about there?
Yeah, I think the reliability part ultimately does take a lot of testing and iteration, right? You can't just buy everyone ChatGPT licenses and then expect that it's going to produce these gains. But coming back to your question, I see 4 broad themes, and you could look at these as steps as well. First, you have to have a C-level strategy around AI. And you're not going to get away with just having a slide in your quarterly board deck saying that you're buying Copilot licenses for everyone. It has to actually be specific to your organization, right? So why is it that you think you can optimize your supply chain using agents, but not perhaps legal workflows? Or why is it that you believe that providing agent workflows to your sales team is the best thing to do and not to your design teams, right? So it has to be well thought through at the C-level. A second step...
Can I just comment on that first point, just quickly? So your examples there, are you saying that to get C-level buy-in, and obviously they're time poor, are you saying that you'd really need to focus on the sort of return on investment of this agentic AI and what it means for the business, or is there other ways that you can sort of bring in C-level into that, to buy into this technology? Yeah,
if it was 2 years ago, I think you could find some very innovative C-level folks that would be interested in exploring, but given the size of the investments nowadays and given the expectation from CFOs that there should be some return, I think you do have to tie it to financial impact. And ultimately, that's the most rewarding for your business. So the second step is then encouraging rapid experimentation, right? So you have this strategy. Ideally, you then have a roadmap of different use cases that you can deploy across your organization, and you encourage teams to rapidly experiment within this framework. We also encourage companies to find champions within their organization. It doesn't matter if they're at the most senior level. Ideally, they're more at the junior level, and you promote them and you highlight the work that they're doing in deploying AI use cases internally. And we've all heard the business jargon, finding quick wins. Go do that. Go find the quick wins. Don't try to solve the most complex thing right away. And because that will then allow you to build momentum towards seeing the longer term vision and realizing the value from this roadmap. Third step, once you've started to experiment internally, you've gotten a lay of the land and start to understand what's out there, I'd recommend actually finding the right partner to do this. And ultimately, Sana is a company that sells our solution to other companies, so please take this with a grain of salt. I am biased. However, the pace of change that we're seeing across large language models, across the AI infrastructure, across the application layer, it's sometimes even hard for our teams to stay abreast of all the the advancements. And you, as a business leader, should not be expected to carry that risk of staying on top of what did OpenAI release today, or why is it that DeepSeek's model is actually going to be fundamentally different than OpenAI's model? That's where you can leverage partners to share that risk, to be the knowledge experts. It could be technology firms, it could be consultancies as well. Find the right one to take on the risk of staying abreast of what's happening in the market. Final step, once you start to implement AI use cases across the organization, the reality is that jobs will fundamentally change. Not sure when, I don't have a crystal ball, but everyone's job will be impacted in different ways. And what's important, especially for HR leaders, especially for operations leaders, is to reevaluate your workforce strategy, zero base your workforce on AI, meaning figure out everything that AI can do first, then find the remaining jobs to be done, and upskill and reskill and hire people for those remaining jobs to be done. And be prepared to do that for the coming 5 to 10 years. Don't try to figure out, with your existing workforce where you can kind of plug in AI over time, because there is going to be a fundamental reordering of work itself. To give a prime example, how many teams have somebody today that's entire job is to oversee a system and administrate that system? Can I see a raise of hands? Right, yeah. I mean, it's a few, yeah. So what this person does on a day-to-day basis, depending on the system, is they administer it, they ensure data management, they ensure governance, and they connect maybe the right business teams to the right data in the system. That's something that can be done by agents, now and over time. And if you think through all the different enterprises that have essentially hired people just to manage systems and information, those jobs are going to fundamentally change. And as business leaders, we should be responsible for that change and not react, but proactively steer it.
Please do submit your questions, or if anyone's got a question, throw up your hand. But in terms of, I just wanted to come back to that sort of rapid experimentation phase that you were talking about, because it's important because, one, if you are going to partner, it helps you, would help you to find the right partner, but then also it would help you to, in the fourth stage that we're talking about as well, like mapping what the technology can do. Can you talk about how, or have you seen businesses experiment, and how have you seen that, and what's been successful in that experimental phase?
Sure. So coming back to this idea of quick wins, so we've seen 3 arcs of enterprise AI today. It started out with search. Large language models drastically improved enterprise search. You can now ask questions in natural language, and you can get files returned to you, you can get meetings returned to you, you can see the citation of where that query matches to the response in the file. The second arc that we've seen is assistants, chatbots, right? You can actually interact and chat with the knowledge or the file. You can ask it to generate something new, synthesize it. And then the third arc, which we're now embarking on, is agents. I'd recommend starting with simple enterprise search. Find a team that's dealing with 5 different systems on a day-to-day basis and struggles to access information across that, and implement enterprise search there. And then just see the gains that people get just from being able to find information faster. That will start to give you momentum. It doesn't have to be tied to financial impact at this stage, but there's enough proof in the experience that users are having to then encourage the next arc, which is working with chatbots, maybe perhaps having them generate drafts of documents, whether it's a legal contract or perhaps an offer letter for a candidate. And then once you start to gain more momentum there, then embark on a journey with agents.
Fantastic and perfectly timed. We're at the end of a session. I know I had to say questions, but I'm sure John won't mind me saying that if you do have any questions, grab them outside and please do ask them. But one of my job is to say to Tom, should we take one quick one and then
bear in mind you recommended to find the right partner. How would you go about actually finding them?
Well, you have to do some research, right? And when doing that research, I would evaluate, based on the strategy that you've developed, where your strengths are, right? So if you have tons of AI engineers and researchers in-house, maybe it does make sense to somewhat build your own solution, right? So the question comes down to like, do you build or do you buy? If you don't have any AI researchers or engineers in-house and you feel like you don't really know where to start, maybe work with a consultancy firm that can help kind of give you a lay of the land or read an analyst report to get up to speed. And then when you figure out more or less kind of what's the technology that's needed to drive that change within the business, and that technology, it could be an application. Then evaluate the different providers based on the use cases you have in your roadmap. And what's most important, of course, is don't forget the change management piece, because ultimately, just buying technology isn't going to help drive that change. So that provider should be well equipped to drive the change together with you.
Great. Thanks for the question. And if you do have any more, please do grab John outside. I hope you don't mind me offering up your services like that. But thank you so much for your insights. It was a pleasure chatting.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.